Fade in on the turbulent skies over the English Channel, June 1942. The roar of Merlin engines pierces the air as Royal Air Force Spitfires weave through flak bursts, escorting bombers on a daring raid into occupied France. Among them is Pilot Officer Burling Smith, a young Canadian ace with 131 Squadron at the controls of his Spitfire Mark 5B, serial number AB910. Painted in the iconic dark green and ocean gray camouflage with sky undersides, this sleek predator of the air embodies British ingenuity, a machine born from the drawing board of Reginald Mitchell, refined through the fires of the Battle of Britain. Smith's mission that day is routine yet perilous: strafe German positions near Cherbourg. But fate intervenes. An opportunistic Focke-Wulf 190, lurking in the clouds, unleashes a burst from its 20mm cannons. Shrapnel rips through AB-910's Merlin 45 engine, oil pressure plummets, and smoke trails from the cowling. With the French coast rushing up, Smith nurses his wounded bird toward a forced landing on a beach near the port. Wheels touch sand at 150 miles per hour. The undercarriage collapses in a spray of grit and sparks. Miraculously, Smith survives, scrambling from the cockpit as Wehrmacht patrols close in. AB-910, however, remains intact, propeller bent but airframe whole, a prize beyond reckoning. Word spreads like wildfire through the Luftwaffe's intelligence network. Captured enemy aircraft are rare treasures, dissected for secrets that could tip the scales in the air war. This isn't just any Spitfire. The Mark 5B is the RAF's frontline workhorse, credited with downing hundreds of German fighters since its debut in 1941. High command orders immediate recovery. German engineers swarm the site, winching the fighter onto a lowboy trailer under heavy guard. Disassembled wings folded, fuselage shrouded in tarpaulin, AB-910 begins its journey eastward, not to the scrapyard, but to the hallowed Rechliner probing stella, the Luftwaffe's premier test facility on the shores of Lake Müritz in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern. Rechlin is a fortress of aeronautical wizardry, where the brightest minds of the Third Reich probe the limits of flight. Here, prototypes like the Me-262 jet and Te-152 high-altitude interceptor are born, but captured foes hold equal allure. The hangars house a menagerie of Allied cast-offs, P-40 Warhawks, B-17 Flying Fortresses, even a rare Mosquito. AB-910 arrives on July 4, 1942, under the watchful eye of Hauptmann Ralph Pingel, a battle-hardened test pilot with 26 victories over the Eastern Front. Pingel, a Prussian aristocrat turned aerial knight, has tangled with I-16 Radas and Yak-1s, but the Spitfire haunts his nightmares, a phantom that dances on the edge of his Bf-109's turning radius. The initial inspection unfolds in Hangar 7, a cavernous space echoing with the clatter of tools and the murmur of engineers. Pingel circles the Spitfire like a wolf eyeing prey. At first glance, it's deceptively familiar. Monoplane configuration, retractable gear, a liquid-cooled V12 engine. But details betray its elegance. The elliptical wings, flush-riveted for minimal drag, span 37 feet, curving gracefully like a bird of prey in stoop. The fuselage tapers to a needle-sharp nose, housing the Rolls-Royce Merlin 45, a 1,470-horsepower beast that purrs with supercharger whine. German technicians note the bubble canopy, offering 360-degree visibility unmatched by the Bf-109's greenhouse. Ein Glassener Sarg, mutters one mechanic, a glass coffin perhaps, but one with eyes everywhere. Weighing in at 6,411 pounds empty, fully loaded, just 2,911 kilograms, the Spitfire is 300 kilograms lighter than intelligence reports predicted. This discrepancy alone sends ripples through the team. Oberlieutenant Hans Varaliers, a meticulous flyer with a doctorate in aerodynamics, pores over blueprints smuggled from captured RAF pilots. The stressed-skin aluminum monocoque, he observes, distributes loads with ethereal efficiency, eliminating the drag of external bracing wires seen on older biplanes. The ailerons and elevators, balanced for feather-light touch, promise roll rates that could snap the fighter into a bank faster than a startled cobra, he whispers to Pingel. kindisch einfach, childishly simple. As days blur into weeks, the team compiles dossiers. Ground runs reveal the Spitfire's docile manners. Taxiing on its narrow-track gear, it sways like a tightrope walker, yet stabilizes with elevator input. Engine start is a symphony. The 12-cylinder Merlin coughs to life at 500 RPM, idling smoothly before climbing to 2,500 RPM with a throaty bellow. Propeller wash stirs dust devils across the concrete. The de Havilland 3-bladed constant-speed unit bites air with hydraulic precision. Intelligence briefs paint the Spitfire as a worthy foe, but no match for the Bf 109 in raw metrics. The Messerschmitt, Willy Messerschmitt's masterpiece, boasts a Daimler-Benz DB601 inverted V12, 1,175 horsepower stock, climbing at 2,850 feet per minute to 20,000 feet in under 6 minutes. Top speed, 398 miles per hour at altitude. The Spitfire, estimated at 374 miles per hour, climb rate 2,800 FPM, close, but the 109's narrower wing loading and fuel injection give it the edge in vertical pulls, or so they think. Pingle pores over RAF combat reports, translated from downed pilots' logbooks. Tales of Spitfires out-turning 109s in the sun-dappled furballs over Kent, using superior roll to reverse and fire. But climb? The Germans hold the aces there, dictating engagements from above like eagles stooping on pigeons. Yet doubt creeps in. A captured Hurricane test last year showed British designs favor agility over straight-line grunt. Could the Spitfire hide a vertical sting? By July 28th, preparations peak. AB-910 receives Luftwaffe markings, black crosses on wings and fuselage, yellow theater bands under the nose, a swastika tail, stenciled in haste. Ground Crew Chief Karl Heinz, a former Heinkel fitter, polishes the canopy for Stigler's maiden voyage. "Flieg sie hart, Lieutenant," he urges, "fly her hard." Dawn breaks clear on the 29th. Lake Müritz is silver mirror. Engines warm across the field. A Bf 109 F4 idles beside an FW 190 A3, their pilots briefed for comparative hops. Stigler straps in, parachute harness snug, oxygen mask dangling. The cockpit envelops him, compact, yet roomier than the 109's sardine can. Throttle quadrant within reach, mixture and pitch levers intuitive. A final systems check. Hydraulics green, electrics live. Pingle signals release. Brakes off, AB-910 surges forward, tail lifting at 60 knots. Rotation at 85, clean brake from the runway. Gear up, flaps retracted. Stigler's first impression, effortless. The Spitfire doesn't fight the pilot, it flows. As climbing out at 180 knots, initial rate pins the needle at 2,900 FPM. Stigler eases back as the supercharger whines as he punches through scattered cumulus. Radio crackles. Eagle 1, confirm climb. His voice, steady, affirmative, handling like a dream. Below, Pingle logs times, stopwatch in hand. The test has begun, not just of metal and Merlin, but of assumptions forged in the crucible of total war. As Stigler levels at 5,000 meters for the first circuit, the truth stirs. This bird doesn't just fly, it soars. And in the vertical dance to come, it will unseat kings. Dawn, July 30th, 1942. Rechlin Airfield lies under a thin veil of mist rolling off Lake Müritz. The captured Spitfire AB-910, now wearing black crosses, stands on the apron between two Bf 109 F4s. Sleek, angular, predatory. Their Daimler-Benz engines idle with a guttural snarl, while the Merlin in the Spitfire hums at a higher pitch, almost melodic. Hauptmann Rolf Pingle stands on the wing root of his personal 109F, White 1, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the British interloper. Today is the day of truth, a head-to-head climb comparison under controlled conditions. No combat, no variables, just raw performance. Lieutenant Franz Stigler, already strapped into AB 910, runs through the checklist with mechanical precision. Fuel, 85 gallons, full boost. Mixture, rich. Propeller pitch, full fine. Supercharger, in moderate gear. He flips the magneto switch, left, right, both, and the Merlin catches instantly, 12 cylinders firing in perfect sequence. The variable incidence tailplane is set neutral, trim tabs zeroed. A thumbs up to the ground crew and the chocks are pulled. Stigler taxis forward, the Spitfire's narrow gear track leaving twin furrows in the dew-wet grass. Across the field, Oberleutnant Otto Behrens, Recklin's climb specialist, lifts off in Bf 109 F4 Yellow 7. Behrens is a data man, not a fighter jock. His cockpit is festooned with recording instruments, a barograph, a climb rate chronometer, a fuel flow meter. His mission is simple: establish a baseline. He will climb to 30,000 feet at full power, logging rate every 1,000 feet. Stigler's task is identical, but in the unknown quantity. Pingle will observe from the tower, stopwatch in hand, radio linked to both aircraft. Takeoff rolls begin simultaneously. The 109F leaps forward, tail up at 70 knots, airborne at 105. The Spitfire follows, heavier on the rudder, but smoother in rotation. Stigler lifts off at 90 knots indicated, gear retracting with a soft clunk. Both aircraft form up in loose echelon, climbing southeast toward the test corridor, a 50-kilometer box over the Mecklenburg Plains, free of flak and prying eyes. At 1,000 feet, Behrens calls. Yellow 7, commencing timed climb. Full power, 2,700 RPM, 1.35 ATA. The 109's nose pitches to 25 degrees, exhaust stubs glowing cherry red. Stigler responds. Eagle 1, same profile. Merlin 45, 3,000 RPM, plus 12 boost. He eases the stick forward slightly. The Spitfire's variable incidence stabilizer automatically adjusts, holding the optimal angle without pilot input. The difference is subtle, but real. The 109 requires constant trim. The Spitfire trims itself. The first minute tells the story. Behrens' VSI needles 3,100 feet per minute. Stigler's? 3,400. A murmur ripples through the control tower. Pingle leans forward, eyes narrowing. The Spitfire is lighter, by 220 kilograms fully loaded, and its wing loading is lower, 24.5 pounds per square foot versus the 109's 29.2. But theory is one thing, cold numbers another. At 5,000 feet, the gap widens. The 109's supercharger is in low gear, fuel fading. Behrens flicks to high blower at 5,700 meters, regaining 200 FPM. But Stigler stays in moderate gear. The Merlin's two-stage supercharger won't shift until 14,000 feet. His climb rate holds steady at 3,300 FPM. The elliptical wing bites clean air, generating lift with minimal induced drag. The 109's squared-off tips, efficient in roll, bleed energy in sustained climb. 10,000 feet. Behrens, 2,900 FPM. Stigler, 3,100 FPM. The Spitfire is now 1,200 feet above, a dark cross against the pale sky. Radio discipline breaks. Mein Gott, mutters Behrens, voice crackling. It's still pulling away. Pingle snaps. Focus, Otto. Data, not drama. 15,000 feet. The air thins. Temperature drops to minus 20 degrees Celsius. Condensation trails stream from wingtips. The 109's DB601N begins to labor. Fuel injection keeps it running, but power falls off. Behrens richens the mixture, sacrificing efficiency for cooling. Stigler, however, leans the Merlin aggressively. The British engine, designed for 100 octane, tolerates the leaner C3 better than expected. His VSI reads 2,800 FPM, still 600 above the 109.
20,000 feet. Critical altitude. The Spitfire supercharger impeller spins at 18,000 RPM, shoving dense air into the cylinders. Stigler shifts to high gear with a soft clunk. Boost jumps from +9 to +12. The VSI surges to 2,600 FPM. Barons, already in high blower, can only manage 2,100. The gap is now 2,100 feet, and growing. 25,000 feet. The 109 shudders. Compressor stall. Barons backs throttle to 2,400 RPM, nursing the engine. His climb rate collapses to 1,400 FPM. Stigler, oxygen mask fogging, pushes on. The Spitfire's cockpit heater works overtime. His gloves are damp with sweat. VSI, 1,900 FPM. The altimeter unwinds past 26,000, 27,000, 28,000. At 28,000 feet, Barons levels off, engine coughing. Yellow 7, ceiling reached, 28,100 feet. His voice is flat. Stigler, however, is still climbing. The Merlin howls, supercharger scream piercing the thin air. 28,500, 29,000, 29,500. At 30,100 feet, the VSI finally drops below 500. Stigler eases back, throttling to 2,200 RPM. Eagle 1, service ceiling 30,100 feet. Rate at 30,800 FPM. Silence in the tower. Pingle's stopwatch lies forgotten. The Spitfire has outclimbed the Bf-109 F4 by 2,000 feet in absolute ceiling, and more critically, by 2,500 feet in sustained rate between 20,000 and 25,000 feet. The myth is shattered. The 109, vaunted king of the vertical fight, has been dethroned by a captured bird running on inferior fuel. Stigler rolls inverted, the horizon flipping. Earth and sky trade places. He pulls through a gentle split S, diving back toward Rechlin. The Spitfire responds eagerly, airspeed building to 400 knots. Barons, already on final, lands long. His 109, wallowing in the thin air, flaps down early. Stigler follows, touching down at 85 knots, taildragger kissing concrete with barely a chirp. Ground crew swarm. Pingle is first at the cockpit. Stigler unstraps, face flushed. It wasn't even close, Herr Hauptmann. The Merlin never missed a beat. And the wing, it just keeps lifting. Pingle says nothing, staring at the datasheets. Climb curves plotted in red and blue. The Spitfire's line arcs higher, longer, steeper. A single annotation in Pingle's hand, plus 2,500 feet at 20 to 25K. That night, in the officers' mess, the mood is somber. Oberleutnant Hans Verliers, the aerodynamicist, sketches on a napkin. The elliptical planform, he explains, reduces induced drag by 18% at high alpha. Our 109 wing is optimized for transonic roll, not sustained lift. Hauptmann Camille Cod, nursing a schnapps, grunts. So we fight lower, faster. Use the 190. But Pingle knows better. The Spitfire 9 is coming, with two-stage Merlin, 1,700 horsepower. This was just the prelude. In Berlin, a terse report lands on Milk's desk. Spitfire VB outperforms Bf-109 F4 in climb above 20,000 feet. Recommend urgent DB605 integration and MW50 injection. The arms race accelerates. But at Rechlin, one truth is etched in stone. The Spitfire is no mere interceptor. It is a climber. And in the thin blue yonder, altitude is life.
August 1, 1942. Rachlin's test schedule tightens like a garrote. The climb shock still reverberates through the Luftwaffe's technical bureaus. Now the focus shifts to the horizontal plane. Roll rate, turn radius, energy retention. Metrics that decide life in the furball. Hauptmann Ralph Pingle, sleepless since the climb trial, drafts the protocol himself. 2 aircraft, Spitfire AB910 and Bf-109F4 White 1, his own mount. 2 pilots, Pingle in the Messerschmitt, Stigler in the Spitfire. Objective: sustained turn, instantaneous turn, roll reversal, and accelerated stall characteristics. No cameras, no excuses. The morning is crisp, visibility unlimited. A 5,000-meter box is marked by smoke floats over the lake. Ground observers with theodolites and cinecameras stand ready. Pingle taxis first, the 109 slotted ailerons drooping slightly at low speed. Stigler follows, the Spitfire's clean wing unmarred by slats or slots. Both aircraft carry 50% fuel, identical armament removed. 4 20mm cannons in the 109, 2 20mm and 4.303 in the Spitfire. Ballast added for parity. Level at 15,000 feet, 250 knots indicated. Pingle calls, White 1, ready for sustained turn left. Stigler, Eagle 1, affirm. Both bank 60 degrees, throttles firewalled. The 109's wing loading bites hard. It carves a tighter initial radius, 380 feet versus the Spitfire's 410. But the Merlin's torque holds airspeed better. After one full circle, the Spitfire's inside, nose 15 degrees ahead. Pingle grits his teeth, hauling back harder. The 109 bleeds knots faster. Its squared tips induce more drag at high alpha. Second circle. The Spitfire's elliptical wing stalls progressively from root to tip, warning with a gentle buffet. The 109 slats snap out at 18 degrees alpha, reducing stall speed, but adding drag. Stigler eases forward pressure, regains energy, then pulls again. Now he's 30 degrees ahead. Pingle's airspeed decays to 140 knots. The 109 mushes, nose dropping. Stigler completes the third turn still at 160 knots, pulling 4.2 G. The sustained turn radius, Spitfire 620 feet, Bf-109 710 feet. A 14% advantage. Pingle breaks off. Chandelle to reset. Instantaneous turn next. Full deflection, count 3 seconds. Both roll to 90-degree bank, yank sticks to the stop. The Spitfire's ailerons, light, balanced, with 22% chord, respond like a rapier, from left 90 to right 90 in 1.8 seconds. The 109's heavier ailerons, boosted by servo taps, take 2.4 seconds. Stigler reverses twice more before Pingle completes one. Roll rate, Spitfire 145 degrees per second at 250 knots, 109 105 degrees per second at 250 knots. The gap is brutal. Next, rolling scissors. They dive to 300 knots, then initiate a series of reversals. Pingle rolls left, pulls. Stigler mirrors, then rolls opposite. The Spitfire's lower wing loading and higher lift-to-drag ratio let it float through the maneuver, maintaining energy. The 109 bleeds speed with each reversal, slats rattling. After 4 crosses, Stigler is 800 feet above, dictating the fight. Pingle's voice over radio is clipped. Enough. Energy stall test. Both slow to corner speed. Spitfire 105 knots, clean wing. 109 98 knots with slats. Pingle stalls first. Sharp wing drop, nose slice. Recovery in 400 feet. The Spitfire's vice is predictable, the 109's is vicious. Final evolution. Accelerated stall in a zoom climb. From 400 knots dive, both pulled to vertical. The Spitfire's wing holds to 5.8 G before compressor stall in the Merlin. It recovers with a flick of rudder. The 109's DB601 surges at 5.2 G, slats deploy asymmetrically, snapping into a spin. Pingle recovers after 2 turns, swearing impression. On the ground, the numbers are merciless. Turn radius sustained, Spitfire wins. Roll rate, Spitfire by 40%. Energy retention in scissors, Spitfire by 12%. Stall recovery, Spitfire by 150 feet. Pingle tears the datasheet in half, then tapes it back. We fight in the vertical, he mutters, but the vertical is already lost. That afternoon, Oberleutnant Hans Vera Leers runs wind tunnel models. The Spitfire's wing, he confirms, generates 11% more lift at 15 degrees alpha with 22% less induced drag. The 109 slats save it from departure but cost speed. Solution? Strip the slats, accept higher landing speeds, gain 8 knots in the turn. But runways are short,
pilots are green, the trade-off is poison. In the hangar, Stigler sits on the Spitfire's wing, smoking. "It doesn't fight you," he tells Cade. "It dances." Cade spits. "Dance in a 109, and you die." But the seed is planted. Recklin's next report to Berlin is blunt. Spitfire VB superior in horizontal maneuver below 20,000 feet. BF 109 outturned, outrolled. Recommend immediate FW 190 priority. Night falls. Pingle stands alone on the apron, staring at the Spitfire. Its curves mock him. Grace where the 109 is brute force. He remembers a channel fight, a Spitfire rolling under his guns, vanishing. Now he knows why. The king is wounded, and the wound is mortal. August 3, 1942. Recklin's high-speed track is a 40-kilometer straight corridor marked by pylons over the pine-darkened plains. Today, the Spitfire AB-910 faces the Bf 109 F4 in level speed, acceleration, and dive. The Luftwaffe clings to one bastion, the Messerschmitt is faster. Intelligence says 398 miles per hour at 21,000 feet for the 109F, 374 miles per hour for the Spitfire VB. But numbers on paper are not numbers in air. Hauptmann Pingle demands proof. Both aircraft are stripped to racing trim. Polished surfaces, guns removed, 30% fuel, no external stores. The Spitfire's Merlin 45 is propped to plus 12 boost on 96 octane C3. The 109's DB601N runs 1.35 ATA. Oberlieutenant Otto Behrens flies the 109 again. His instruments now include a pedostatic boom and a photo panel for true airspeed. Stigler takes the Spitfire. A U-88 pacesetter flies at 5,000 feet with cine cameras. Level at 20,000 feet, 1,000 feet separation. Pingle in the tower. White 1, Eagle 1, full power, hold altitude, record TAS. Throttles slam forward. The 109 surges first, its narrow fuselage slicing air like a stiletto. The Spitfire follows, broader wing planform pushing a bigger hole. At 60 seconds, 109 at 382 miles per hour TAS, Spitfire 378 miles per hour TAS. Close. At 120 seconds, 109 395 miles per hour TAS, Spitfire 388 miles per hour TAS. The gap holds 7 miles per hour. But the Merlin is still winding up. Supercharger in high gear, impellers screaming. Third pass, dive from 25,000 feet. Both roll inverted, noses 45 degrees down. The 109's pointed spinner knifed through, hitting 460 miles per hour TAS at 15,000 feet. The Spitfire, elliptical wings whistling, reaches 450 miles per hour, then the canopy begins to buffet. Stigler eases back, compressibility. The 109's square tips delay Mach effects. It pulls away to 480 miles per hour before Pingle calls pull-up. The Spitfire recovers cleaner, elevator authority intact. Dive speed, 109 wins by 30 miles per hour. Acceleration from 200 to 300 knots at 15,000 feet. The 109's lower drag coefficient, 0.016, versus Spitfire's 0.018, gives it a 2-second edge. But the Spitfire's thrust-to-weight ratio, 0.23, versus 109's 0.21, lets it close and sustain chase. After 30 seconds, the gap is 400 yards and shrinking. Zoom climb from 500 miles per hour dive. Both pull vertical. The 109 rockets to 8,200 feet above release. The Spitfire, lighter, converts speed to altitude better, 8,900 feet. Energy maneuverability, Spitfire wins. Final test. Terminal dive to compressibility. From 30,000 feet, both push over. The 109 hits Mach 0.78. Ailerons freeze, nose tucks. Behrens recovers with trim tabs, white-knuckled. Stigler, forewarned, backs off at Mach 0.75. Canopy rattles, wings shudder, but controls remain alive. The Spitfire's thicker wing route delays shock stall. Debrief is brutal. Level speed, 109 by 7 miles per hour. Dive, 109 by 30 miles per hour. Acceleration, 109 by 2 seconds. Zoom, Spitfire by 700 feet. Compressibility, 109 reaches higher Mach but loses control first. Pingle underlines one line. Spitfire VB controllable to Mach 0.75. BF 109F loses aileron at Mach 0.78. That night, Lears calculates drag polars. The Spitfire's flesh riveting and elliptical wings save 12% parasite drag at 400 miles per hour. The 109's cooling ducts and gun ports cost 8 miles per hour. Solution: seal gun ports, wax fuselage, shave radiator scoop. Gain 5 miles per hour. Not enough. In the mess, Stigler raises a glass. We own the turn and the climb. They own the dash. But war is not a quarter mile. Pingle stares into his coffee.
The Focke-Wulf 190A3 waits in the next hangar. 520 miles per hour, 420 millimeters, and roll rate 160 degrees per second. The future is radial, but the Spitfire has already rewritten the present. August 5th, 1942. Recklin's restricted airspace is sealed tighter than a U-boat hatch. No observers, no cameras, no records beyond handwritten logs. Hauptmann Ralph Pingel has demanded one final evolution, a mock combat engagement between Spitfire AB-910 and Bf-109 F-4 White 1. Not a sterile test, but a knife fight at 15,000 feet, guns replaced by Senate cameras, pilots free to improvise. Pingel flies the 109, Stigler the Spitfire. Rules: start co-altitude 1,000 yards astern, merge, fight to guns track or disengagement. First to 3 kills wins. Both aircraft are combat loaded, 70% fuel, full armament weight via ballast. Pingel's 109 carries the standard Recklin gun camera. Stigler's Spitfire has a borrowed N8 unit bolted to the starboard wing root. Ground control is Pingel's deputy, Hauptmann Emil Cade, voice calm over the RT. Gentlemen, altitude 4,500 meters. Merge on my mark. Fight clean. Mark. Pingel starts in the Spitfire 6, 300 knots, closing fast. He expects the British fighter to break left, standard RAF doctrine. Stigler does not. He holds straight, then snap rolls right, ailerons biting hard. Pingel overshoots, throttle firewall, nose high to loop. Stigler reverses into him, pulling 5 Gs, elliptical wing carving a 500-foot radius. The Spitfire's nose tracks across the 109's belly, camera gun whirs. Kill 1. Reset. This time, Stigler is the attacker. Pingel breaks hard left, slats out, hauling into a tight spiral. The 109's lower wing loading bites. Stigler overshoots by 200 yards. Pingel rolls inverted, dives, then zooms vertical. Stigler follows, but the Merlin supercharger lag costs 1.5 seconds. Pingel chandelles, reverses, gets a fleeting deflection shot, camera records a wing flash. Kill 1 apiece. Third merge. Pingel feints high, then splits S. Stigler anticipates, barrel rolls over the top, energy intact. The 109 is now low and slow. Stigler dives, converts altitude to speed, pulls inside the turn. The Spitfire's roll rate shines, 145 deg per second, lets him reverse twice before Pingel can rudder over. Nose on, 300 yards, camera tracks the 109's cockpit. Kill 2. Pingel's voice crackles. Again, sweat beads under his leather helmet. Fourth merge, he tries the vertical, full power, nose 60 degrees up. The 109 climbs at 3,100 FPM. The Spitfire, lighter, 3,400. Stigler stays in the climb, supercharger in high gear, then rolls off the top, diving on Pingel's blind spot. The 109's canopy fills the gun sight. Kill 3. Fight over. On the ground, the film is developed in silence, frame by frame. Stigler's first kill at 0.8 seconds of merge. Pingel's lone kill at 4.2 seconds. Final kill at 2.1 seconds. Total engagement time, 47 seconds. Pingel stares at the freeze frame, his own 109 centered in the Spitfire's sight, Stigler's gloved hand on the stick. No words. That night, Pingel writes the report himself. In simulated combat, Spitfire VB achieves decisive advantage in merge through superior roll, sustained turn, and energy management. Bf-109F unable to dictate terms below 20,000 feet. Pilot skill equalized, aircraft disparity decisive. He signs it, seals it, marks it geheim, secret. In the hangar, Stigler runs a hand along the Spitfire's wing. She doesn't win by power. She wins by never bleeding what she doesn't have to. Lears nods, sketching a new wing for the 109. Clip tips, higher roll, but the cost is climb. Trade-offs. Pingel stands outside, lighting a cigarette. The lake is black glass, stars sharp. He remembers a Polish pilot in 1939, a PZL that turned inside his 109E. He shot it down, but the memory lingered. Now the ghost has a name, Spitfire, and it flies with British grace and German fuel. Tomorrow the aircraft will be crated. Spitfire to Berlin for Göring's inspection, 109 back to the line. But the lesson is already airborne, carried in the minds of 4 pilots who will never forget the day a captured bird humbled the Luftwaffe's best. August 6, 1942. Dawn at Rechlin is cold steel. Spitfire AB-910 is chained to a flatbed, wings folded, Merlin muffled under canvas. Destination? Berlin-Gatow for Reich Marshal Hermann Göring's personal review. Hauptmann Ralph Pingel oversees the loading, face carved from granite. No salute, no farewell. The captured bird leaves behind a silence louder than any engine. In the briefing room, the four test pilots, Pingel, Stigler, Leers, Cade, stand before General Major Adolf Galland, Jagdwaffe's technical chief. Charts cover the walls. Climb curves, turn radii, roll rates, speed polars. Red lines for Spitfire, blue for BF-109F. Every metric a wound. Galland's voice is ice. Explain. Pingel steps forward. The Spitfire is not faster, not stronger. It is balanced. Wing, engine, controls, designed as one organism. Our 109 fights with brute force. Theirs with harmony. He taps the climb graph. 2,500 feet above 20,000. That is a death sentence in the West. Leers adds, elliptical wing reduces induced drag 18% at high alpha. Flush riveting saves 12% parasite. Merlin tolerates lean mixture better than DB601 on C3. Combine effect? Sustained performance we cannot match without radical redesign. Cade the veteran speaks last. In the merge, the Spitfire dictates. Role reversal in 1.8 seconds. Our pilots need 3. That is 2 extra heartbeats to die. Galland absorbs it, then issues orders. Immediate actions. Accelerate BF-109G with DB605A and MW50 injection, target 2000 HP. Shift FW-190A production to high-altitude variants. Initiate captured Spitfire dissection at Dessau for material analysis. Circulate combat doctrine. Engage Spitfire only from altitude advantage. Never turn below 20,000 feet. By noon, AB-910 is airborne in a U-52, escorted by 2 109s. Over Berlin, Göring watches from the tarmac, monocle glinting. He climbs the ladder, peers into the cockpit. So, this is the English wonder, he sneers. But his staff whisper the numbers. His face darkens. That night, he cables Hitler. Enemy fighter superiority confirmed. Urgent resource reallocation required. Back at Rechlin, Stigler flies a final sortie in a 109F, pushing it through the same maneuvers. The aircraft feels heavy, sluggish. He lands shaken. In the logbook, he writes, "Flew the loser today." Weeks later, the ripple effects spread. At Messerschmitt, Willy Messerschmitt rages at the clipped wing 109G1, roll improved, climb sacrificed. At Focke-Wulf, Kurt Tank smiles. The FW-190A5 with BMW 801D2 is greenlit. RAF intelligence intercepts a coded signal. Spitfire VB equals priority target. Avoids sustained engagement. In England, pilot officer Burling Smith, now in a Canadian POW camp, hears rumors from a smuggled Daily Mail. Captured Spitfire shocks Luftwaffe. He laughs until tears come. His bird flew on. December 1942. The first Spitfire 9 squadrons deploy. 2-stage Merlin, plus 18 boost, 2,600 FPM climb to 30,000 feet. German pilots report ghosts above the clouds. The 2,500-foot gap becomes 4,000. At Rechlin, a new sign hangs in Hangar 7. Here flew the truth. Beneath it, a single elliptical wing panel, polished to mirror finish, reflects the faces of young pilots who will never underestimate the enemy again. The war continues, but in the thin air where eagles fight, one captured Spitfire changed everything. Spring 1943. The skies over Europe burn with new fury. Spitfire Mark 9s, born from the lessons of AB-910's capture, climbed to 33,000 feet on 2-stage Merlins, outpacing BF-109 G6s still struggling with GM-1 nitrous. The 2,500-foot shock of Rechlin has become a 5,000-foot chasm. German pilots, once kings of the vertical, now fight from defensive weaves, praying for cloud cover. The Focke-Wulf 190A8, rushed into service with MW50, claws back some ground. 4 30mm cannons, 165 degrees per second roll, but its radial thirst guzzles fuel, and its climb still lags the Spitfire by 1,800 feet per minute above 25,000 feet. In the Reich Chancellery, Erhard Milch pores over lost tables. Jagdgeschwader 26, the Abbeville boys, report 3-to-1 kill ratios reversed over Dieppe. A single Spitfire squadron, 401 RCAF, claims 28 victories in March alone. Pilots speak of ghosts that appear from sunlit heights, strike, and vanish. The Luftwaffe's answer, the Me-262 jet, but prototypes crash, engines burn out in 10 hours, and Allied bombs fall on Augsburg. At Dessau, Juncker's engineers dissect AB-910's airframe. The aluminum-lithium alloy in the wing spars, lighter, stronger, cannot be matched with German shortages. The Merlin sleeve valve technology remains a mystery. Daimler-Benz copies fail under sustained boost. A final report, stamped Streng Geheim, concludes, Spitfire design philosophy, minimum weight, maximum harmony, unreplicable under current resource constraints. Across the channel, Reginald Mitchell's ghost smiles. The elliptical wing, once mocked as overcomplicated, becomes the template for the Spitfire 14 with Griffin engine. 2,200 horsepower, 4,100 feet per minute climb. By D-Day, June 1944, typhoons and tempests rule low, but Spitfires own the roof. P-51 Mustangs arrive with drop tanks, but the blueprint was set in 1942 by a captured Mark V-B. In a Canadian POW camp, Burling Smith is repatriated in a 1944 exchange. He returns to 131 Squadron, now flying Spitfire 9s. On his first sortie over Normandy, he climbs to 31,000 feet, looks down at burning panzer columns, and whispers to the Merlin, "Still flying, old girl." Post-war, AB-910 is restored at RAF Cosford, serial repainted, Merlin purring on 100 octane. Veterans gather, Stigler, now a Lufthansa captain, Pingle, a Mercedes test driver, Lairs, a NASA consultant. They stand before the aircraft in 1967, silver hair, silent. Stigler touches the wing. "He taught us humility," he says. Pingle nods. "And saved lives, ours and theirs." The Spitfire flies again at air shows, black and white footage projected beside Recklin's faded graphs. Children watch wide-eyed as the elliptical wings carve contrails. The 2,500-foot shock is now a legend. A single captured fighter that forced an empire to rethink the sky. In aviation textbooks, the chapter is short. The Recklin Revelation, 1942. A Spitfire VB outclimbed, outturned, and outthought the Bf-109F, accelerating the jet age and ending piston supremacy. The numbers remain. Climb advantage, plus 2,500 feet, sustained 20 to 25 K. Turn radius, minus 14%. Roll rate, plus 40 degrees per second. Combat outcome, decisive. The war ended in 1945. The lesson never did. Fade to blue sky. A lone Spitfire climbs, Merlin singing, disappearing into sunlit infinity. The echo of 1942 still climbs with it.